Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today we're making a little gnomette for Mother's Day. There's a lot of fun detail with this one and a few new techniques, so boop! If you'd like to make it, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. So you can see her, she has a cute little flower detail tucked right into her hat. She's got some lace and some hand stitching detail. She has this little easy apron on. And we're gonna start out with the Scandinavian Sweeties pattern. So I've cut from sort of a pink/mauve fleece, the body, and then the body base, the hat, 2 arms. I have 2 of the tie top mittens. Now this is all one color because we're going to be using detail like this Dollar Tree lace ribbon. It's like a fabric lace I'm going to put as an accent, and then any flowers you would like. I didn't know which one I was going to use. So the first thing we need to do is on the right side of the fabric, we're going to add whatever trim you want on your hat. So I'm using fleece, so there's no need to hem it. So especially if you put the detail on the front like this, absolutely no need to hem it, but you can hem it as well. Put the right sides together, and then we're going to do that as well with the body. I'm going to be using the hot glue technique to assemble this, but I have sewing instructions in this pattern as well. This is my favorite pattern because it produces a very great size gnome that you can make bendable hat. The pattern has arms, the pattern has mittens, a lot of them. The pattern has feet. So there's a lot of variation we can use in this. And so I'm just going to follow the pattern instructions, get the body and the hat all ready. And we're just putting right sides together, and I'm using a detail tip glue gun for this. I do recommend it. You won't have a lot of glue spillage and you won't have uneven joins. All right, so once that is set, we're actually going to move over to the body piece, but it's going to be real quick. We're just going to attach one side. Doesn't matter which side you attach. All you're going to want to do is go very close to the edge and just line up the 2 pieces. The base right side needs to be facing in, and then let that sit aside. I'm just going to roll the arms, which means I don't have to pull them in, flip them. So I'm just going to roll them up and then roll them right onto each other, right like that. So we glue those all the way down and come back to the body. So we're going to fold each of these 2 pieces to find where we're going to join them, and then we're just going to take those 2 edges and then join them straight like this. Go ahead and get some sewing pins because you do not want to glue this yet, just in case you're a little off. So go ahead and get your pins, pin this in place. Now you're just going to split the pins. You can do this 2 ways. One, you can tuck that body bottom inside, or you can flip it all out like a mushroom. I'm showing how to tuck it inside for this one. So if you are doing this with a sewing machine, obviously you're going to use the pins all the way around. You're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. If you're using the hot glue gun, I really recommend using the detail tip glue gun. It's going to make your bottom a lot less bumpy. So I've gotten a lot of emails from, not a lot, but I've gotten emails from people and they're like, why is the bottom scrunchy? And we figured out it was mostly due to the glue application. So if you want to try this with a detail tip glue gun versus what you're using now, I think that you'll find a big difference. All I'm doing here is using that glue to put it right along the edge. Now, if it pops out this side, it's perfectly fine, right? We want that to happen. We don't want the glue seeping in because that's actually the outside of our gnome. I am not squeezing it, so I'm just basically tapping these 2 pieces together. With fleece, you don't need to squeeze it together. It will join. I'm using the Surebonder detail tip glue gun and the Surebonder glue sticks. All right, so I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around, removing the pins and just splitting those areas, just making sure I get everything done. Once I have it all done, I'm going to set that aside and move on to the mittens. If you're using a hot glue gun for the mittens, this is always kind of hit and miss for me. I think the tie top mittens are the easiest to do with a glue gun, and that's because you can do one long side, set it aside to dry, do another side, set it aside to dry. I think that's the method that works best for me. And so you can see me, I'm just swapping the 2 mittens out here, and I'm just following that, where I'm letting one side set completely before moving on. So we're going to check our seams here. I'm just pulling everything apart because I am using hot glue. And then I'm going to flip it right sides out and get a pair of dull scissors at the end just to pop out that tip. You can also use, you know, a pencil. You can use the actual sewing thing that you're supposed to use, which I have, which I never use. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing for the body, pulling everything along that top side and the very bottom piece because you want to make sure nothing's going to come out of these guys. And we're going to do the same thing with poking out the tip and running the bottom through the bottom seam through our hands just to make sure it's flat. Do be careful when you're popping out these little mittens. I didn't do it with this, but in the past with hot glue, I've ripped them apart. So just FYI. All right, so we're going to pop those both out. I used a pen without it being clicked, you know, to pop those out. We're going to need an X-Acto knife to cut the faux fur, just not yet. I'm going to use 1 full cup of weight. I'm using poly pellets, which are non-odor and non-moisture absorbing, before I pop in all of the nice little fluff. I'm using polyfill from the craft store. You can use the inside of pillows. You can use your child's stuffed animals. You told them you were donating to the Goodwill, all kinds of stuff. Whatever you've got. Scraps of fabric when you're cutting, I use that as well. Now you can put a wire in here. I've showed that many, many times. Just make sure that you get it into that channel and also dull both the edges. So I'm just taking the channel, clipping it on 2 ends and then doing the center. And then I'm going to unclip the ends and then do those as well. And I just like to clip them back together just because, you know, it's easy. I'm going to roll this in between my hands, making sure to distribute the fluff and the polyfill. I get asked a lot about when people know it's full. If you can squeeze it and it bounces back to its original form, it's ready. All right, so here I'm just getting everything ready. I'm going to pin on the hat just so I can scrunch it up in the front like this, just to get an idea of where everything needs to be. I'm going to put the arm inside of the mitten with the arm seam in the back, which will be against the body. I used that Dollar Tree lace just to, you know, add a little accent, and then I glued the mitten to the arm. I cut a piece of cream fleece 3 3¼ by 13 inches long, and then I cut 2 apron pieces 1 inch wide by 3 inches long, and I'm just going to fold each of the apron pieces into the center, but I'm not going to do it all the way. I'm actually going to leave the end flat because that's the part that's going to tuck up under the hat. You see that there? We're just going to make 2 of those and then just tuck them up where you see that where the flat part is up under there. All right, so now I'm just going to tuck in the arms just to get an idea of where everything needs to be and how long I need my apron. So I'm just going to make a running stitch, which means that I'm going to use embroidery thread and a needle to go all the way across. I folded down the top hem like maybe a 1/2 inch and then did that running stitch all the way around. I made sure to end also on the outside of the fabric here. I remove my needle and then you can put this onto the body. This is the easiest way to make a little interest dress or even a skirt if you have a tall body gnome like you're doing a pool noodle gnome. This is the easiest way. Fleece doesn't have to be hemmed, but you can use any fabric, add lace or whatever. I cut 2 pieces of fur, 3/4 inch wide rectangles, by just under 3 inches, and then I tipped the bottoms, meaning I actually brought the 2 bottoms to the point just by cutting off of that, cutting that fur. If you need a detailed tutorial on how to cut faux fur, I'll link that in the iCard above. Basically, you use an X-Acto knife or a razor blade, and you can get very precise cuts without losing any of the fur, as you can see here. I'm going to fold these 2 pieces right together so we have a nice big channel that we're going to use to glue. Speaking of glue, I put a couple pins in to make sure I knew where to place my nose. I'm using a 1-inch wood ball. You can use a pom-pom. You can use a felted ball. You can make a nylon stuffed polyfill nose, whatever you'd like to use here. So I'm just tucking everything in to get an idea, and now I'm actually going to start gluing everything down. So I start with the bottom layer first, and that is our aprons, strings, and then I move to the arms, making sure I just glue those right up under the hat. And then I'm going to glue that top piece down for the apron. So I know I'm going to get questions on this. The reason I made them so long is because with a girl braids, you know, everything is going to move and shift. It is fleece. And so even though we're going to glue that channel right above the nose and all the way down the side, we could still move our hat and it would show if you only put a partial apron string. All right, so I took this gold thread I had gotten from the craft store. It's stiff, but I have a lot of it, so I'm going to use it. And so I just did a nice little like simple stitch down the back. Once I had the back done, I knew that I could glue down the back of my hat. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to glue down the rest of the hat. So all the way around the sides and arms. By the way, if you hear all those bangs coming from my She Who Shall Not Be Named, it's because we're getting packages. I apologize. All right, so for the detail on the flowers, I just took some very small yellow flowers and a piece or a few leaves of lamb's ear, and I cut directly into the hat because it is fleece. If you're using a frayable fabric, I don't recommend doing that. You can use some fray check on it if you do use that. I did a simple stitch around the sides here, and all I did is just moved over about 1/4 of an inch, wrapped it around the bottom, moved over 1/4 of an inch, wrapped it around the bottom. You can see here, it went pretty quickly, but it did take me a good 5 minutes just because I hate hand sewing. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Also down below will be a link to the Scandinavian Sweeties pattern. As always, thank you so much for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe for more crafty fun.